At exactly 1:17 p.m., Daniel suddenly stops talking in the middle of lunch. His friend across the table looks confused as Daniel quietly excuses himself and walks away. A few minutes later, he returns, and the questions begin. Daniel lives in Toronto, one of the most diverse cities in the world. He's a university student studying engineering, surrounded by classmates from dozens of cultures and religions. But in his group of close friends, he's the only Muslim. That means something interesting happens almost every week. Someone asks him a question about Islam. Sometimes it's curiosity, sometimes it's confusion, and sometimes it's a misunderstanding that needs to be untangled. For Daniel, explaining his faith has quietly become part of everyday life. And those conversations often start in the most ordinary moments, like lunch. Daniel's day usually begins long before the city fully wakes up. At 5:45 a.m., his alarm goes off softly in the dark room of his small apartment. Outside the window, Toronto's skyline is still glowing with early morning streetlights. Before checking his phone or making coffee, Daniel walks to the sink to perform wudu, the ritual washing Muslims do before prayer. Cold water runs over his hands, his face, his arms. Within a few minutes, he spreads a small prayer mat on the floor facing east. For a moment, the room becomes completely quiet. This is Fajr, the first prayer of the day. Across the world, millions of Muslims are doing the same thing at nearly the same time, from villages in Indonesia to apartments in London. But here in Toronto, Daniel is mostly doing it alone. After prayer, the pace of the morning changes quickly. By 7:30 a.m., he's walking through crowded subway stations filled with commuters heading to work. On the train, Daniel looks just like everyone else. Backpack, headphones, phone in hand. But small differences appear throughout the day. By mid-morning, Daniel is sitting in a lecture hall surrounded by hundreds of students. During a break, one of his classmates notices something unusual. "Hey, Daniel, why didn't you eat the pizza at the club meeting yesterday?" Daniel smiles gently. "It wasn't halal." The conversation pauses. What does that mean exactly? Moments like this happen constantly. For Daniel, explaining Islam rarely begins with big philosophical discussions. It begins with small, everyday questions. Halal food, for example, is one of the easiest places to start. In Islam, halal simply means permissible, especially when it comes to food. Certain ingredients and preparation methods matter. So, while his friends grab burgers from nearby restaurants, Daniel often walks a few extra blocks to find halal options. It's a small adjustment, but it sparks curiosity. And curiosity opens conversations. By noon, the campus is buzzing with activity. Students fill cafeterias and hallways between classes. But at around 1:15 p.m., Daniel quietly checks the time, because something important is about to happen. This is the moment we saw earlier, the moment that made his friend pause during lunch. At exactly 1:17 p.m., Daniel quietly steps away from the table. He walks down a quiet hallway toward a small empty study room. Inside, he lays his jacket on the floor. This is duhur, the midday prayer. For Daniel, these 5 daily pauses aren't interruptions, they're anchors, small moments that reset the rhythm of the day. But the first time his friends saw it happen, they had a lot of questions, and those questions led to conversations that lasted much longer than the prayer itself. Of course, explaining Islam isn't always easy. Sometimes the questions come from curiosity. Other times, they come from assumptions. One afternoon after class, Daniel and his friends were sitting outside the campus library. A student nearby overheard their conversation and asked something directly. "Wait, are Muslims allowed to have non-Muslim friends?" The question wasn't hostile, but it carried a misunderstanding. Daniel laughed gently. "Of course we are." Moments like that happen often. Many people in Western countries have limited exposure to Islam beyond news headlines or internet debates. That means Muslims like Daniel sometimes find themselves representing an entire religion in everyday conversations, and that responsibility can feel heavy. Another challenge appears in more practical ways. Take Friday afternoons, for example. Friday is the most important congregational prayer of the week, called Jumu'ah. But Daniel's class schedule sometimes overlaps with it. So once a week, he rushes across the city to reach a mosque during his break. The timing isn't always convenient, but it's important to him. Then there are cultural misunderstandings. One of the most common questions Daniel hears is about fasting during Ramadan. How do you not eat all day? His friends imagine it must be impossible. But for Daniel, Ramadan isn't just about food. It's about discipline, reflection, gratitude. Still, living in a non-Muslim environment during Ramadan can feel strange. While coworkers eat lunch and cafes stay busy, Daniel quietly fasts until sunset. Sometimes people worry about saying the wrong thing. Other times, they're simply curious. But those conversations, even awkward ones, often lead to deeper understanding, and sometimes something unexpected. Because the best explanations don't always happen through words. They happen through shared experiences. Every Friday evening, the energy around Daniel's local mosque begins to change. Cars slowly fill the parking lot. Families arrive with children. Friends greet each other at the entrance. Inside, the atmosphere feels warm and familiar. Here, Daniel is no longer the only Muslim in the room. The mosque is more than a place of prayer. It's a community center, a meeting place, a reminder of cultural roots that stretch across continents. During Ramadan, that sense of community becomes even stronger. As the sun begins to set, tables are arranged for iftar, the meal that breaks the daily fast. Dates, water, rice dishes, soups, and desserts fill the tables. People from dozens of backgrounds sit side by side. Pakistan, Somalia, Turkey, Indonesia, Canada. Different cultures, one shared moment. When the call to prayer echoes through the room, everyone pauses together. Fasting ends with a simple bite of a date. For Daniel's non-Muslim friends who attend for the first time, the experience often changes everything. The atmosphere surprises them. Instead of something unfamiliar or distant, they find warmth, hospitality, laughter. One of Daniel's classmates attended an iftar last year. Afterward, he said something interesting. "I thought I understood Islam before, but I didn't really understand the people." That moment stayed with Daniel, because sometimes the best explanation of faith isn't a lecture, it's an invitation. Back at the university cafeteria, Daniel finishes telling his friend why he stepped away earlier that afternoon. His friend nods slowly. "So, you pray 5 times every day?" Daniel smiles. "Yeah." There's a brief pause. Then another question appears. "What does it feel like?" Daniel thinks for a moment. It's like pressing pause on everything else. Across the world today, nearly 2 billion Muslims live in thousands of different cultures and countries. Some live in places where the call to prayer echoes across entire cities. Others live in places where they quietly find space in offices, classrooms, or empty rooms down the hallway. Different environments, different languages, but the same rhythm. 5 quiet moments each day. And sometimes those moments become something more. A conversation, a question, or the beginning of understanding.